What is up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about my favorite budget smartphones for this upcoming Black Friday. As you can see with these statistics, people spend a lot of money and there's growth every year. So hopefully you guys don't go to the store. If you do, I hope you be safe. But I wanted you guys to check out some of my favorite phones. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, my first phone, of course, is the Bolden One. Now, I feel like this is not going to get a discount. It's 200 bucks on Amazon, and I feel like the price is really right on this one anyway. So it's got a 6.4-inch display, 1080 by 2340. It's got a no-notch display, which is one of my favorite things about this phone at this price point, and it is an AMOLED display as well. So this phone just checks off all the boxes. A beautiful glass and metal design. You also have Android 9 planned, Android 10. The Helio P70 processor is more than capable to game and multitask and do all that stuff with 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage with micro SD support. So as you can see why I love this phone so much. So you do have a dual camera setup, 16 megapixel and a 5 megapixel depth sensor, along with that pop-up selfie camera at 13 megapixels. I'm not gonna lie, the cameras aren't the highlight with this phone, but if you do install Gcam or open camera, you can get much better photos from what I've tested. Now you do have the 3.5mm jack, USB Type-C, and you also have, here's the kicker, a wireless charging on here. So that is amazing for a $200 phone. You also have fast charging, 18 watts, and a 3500 milliamp battery, which will get you about 7 hours of battery life. So you should be able to make it through the day, no problem. Next is the Samsung Galaxy A20s. So one of the reasons I really love this phone was because it had a pretty big display for 185 bucks. I really like the big size display on here for this price. Now it is a 720p display, which is pretty decent with a water drop notch. You do have pretty much a plastic design on here, but it does feel very premium in the hand. It has a kind of nice weight to it. So 264 for the PPI. The screen is pretty decent. They got rid of the AMOLED display on this one and just put an IPS, which is confusing. But you do have Android 9, the Snapdragon 450 GPU, the Adreno 506, and from my testing, I was able to play games fine. Of course, you're not going to be able to play on the highest settings, but I was able to play without really any lag. You're just going to be playing on low. Micro SD support up to 1 terabyte is very nice for this price point. You do have 32 gigs of storage and 3 gigs of RAM. Now the cameras on here are pretty decent. You have a triple camera setup, a 13 megapixel wide, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 5 megapixel depth sensor, along with an 8 megapixel selfie. And from what I've seen, the front camera wasn't all that, but the back cameras took some really nice photos, and if this gets a Gcam port, you can get away with some excellent photos on here. So I was very impressed with Samsung's image processing on this phone. Now you do keep the 3.5mm jack, USB Type-C, and the fingerprint scanner works on the back, and you do have that face unlock. The highlight with this phone, I guess, is the 4000 milliamp battery. You will be able to get about a day and a half of battery life, so it's a pretty nice size battery for a budget phone with 15-watt charging. So I really love this. Samsung fans, check this one out. Next is the LG Stylo 5. So I really love this phone. Now you can pick this up at Boost Mobile. I got it at Walmart for $139. So I mean, this is a phone that I would go to the store and try to fight somebody over, because I really like this phone. It's got the stylus. It was just really fun to be able to draw. I kind of slept on this phone. So you do have an IPS panel, 6.2 inches. It is a 1080p display, 390 for the PPI. So very nice display. LG always makes some pretty decent displays. Android 9 with the Snapdragon 450, Adreno 506. So you're not going to be able to play at high settings and stuff like that, but you will be able to play no problem. So you do have micro SD support up to 1 terabyte, which I think is really good for this price point. 32 gigabytes of storage and 3 gigabytes of RAM. Now this is the cool thing with this phone. Now it only has one camera, but it is actually a really decent camera from when I was testing it out. So it actually takes good photos, unlike the the G8 Play that I had a triple camera and it just, all the cameras sucked. So I'd rather them have one, good one. So the selfie camera on here is a 5 megapixel The 3.5 millimeter jack is nice. You do have a fingerprint scanner as well as face unlock with a 3500 milliamp battery. Will get you through the day no problem. Now next is the LG G7 ThinQ. You can pick this up for a 230, which I really love this because it's basically last year's flagship. So you have a glass and metal design which feels excellent in the hand, one of my favorite feeling phones. You also have a 6.1-inch display. It is a 1440p display, which is excellent. It's very nice and crystal clear. It is an IPS display, 564 for the PPI. You do have that always on function on here as well. Now it is IP68 water resistant, so you can get it wet and it should survive. You do have Android 9 on here with the Snapdragon 845 and the Adreno 630, so I was able to play every game on high from PUBG to Call of Duty. So you do have micro SD support up to 1 terabyte, along with that 64 gigs of storage and 4 gigs of RAM. So you have a dual camera setup on here, which I was really impressed with. A 16 megapixel wide and a 16 megapixel ultra wide, along with an 8 megapixel selfie camera. So the really cool thing about this is that it takes some excellent photos, but you can even take better photos if you put the Gcam port on here, which is awesome. So you also have a 3.5 millimeter jack. You have the DTX surround sound, so if you're into listening to music on your phone, this is a great option. You do have a USB type C with a 3000 milliamp battery, which I'm not gonna lie, this thing barely gets through the day. You can get through the day, but you know, you're gonna be at the charger at the end of the day, definitely. 18 watt charging on here, as well as wireless charging. So this is just an excellent phone. I really love this phone. Now last is the Moto G8 Play that you can pick up for around 200 bucks. Now I love the phone, I love Motorola, but this phone, you know, it's kind of iffy, so you got to kind of decide on if you like the pros with this one. So you have a 6.2-inch display. It is a 720p display, decent display. Gets pretty bright, 271 for the PPI, so it's a pretty nice display. But you have a sort of plastic design which feels very nice. Actually, this phone actually kind of heavy, has a really nice weight to it. The cool thing with this phone is you have the Helio P70 processor, so you can play games to medium to high settings depending on what kind of game it is, and I was very impressed with that. Here's the like kind of stupid thing with this phone: it has 2 gigs of RAM to go with that, so you're not going to be able to multitask. And you know, how long is this phone going to last? A couple years from now was my question, but it ran fast because it has the stock Android and that Helio P70. So it was just very strange that they did that. Micro SD support, 512. So you know, we have 32 gigs of storage on here as well. And here's the interesting thing: it has a triple camera setup, a 13 megapixel wide, 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor on top of an 8 megapixel selfie. Now the cameras on here are actually pretty bad. I just didn't like the quality, the image processing. Motorola has always been kind of weak with cameras, so you know, this is the same thing. So you got the 3.5 millimeter jack, micro USB type C actually on here. The fingerprint scanner works fast, face unlock is really fast, so you know, you had to kind of make that decision. This does have stock Android, which I love, but the cameras are trash, but the processor is good, but you don't have RAM. You do have a 4000 milliamp battery, which lasts a really long time. I love the battery life on here. But so, you know, it's just one of those weird phones. So thanks for watching this video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Links are in the description.